This channel is for educational purposes only. We show you the how-tos. This should not be constituted as financial advice. Please contact a professional in that area to let you know what you should do with your money. The main thrust of the Ujamaa Network, Black Investments Matter, was to promote investing within the Black community by the Black community, so we don't have to rely so heavily on federal programs or DEI initiatives. That was the whole thrust from the beginning. Now, with this current administration making the executive actions that it's made, it just makes it even more clear to you why that was important. As we have seen within the first 5 days of this administration, those programs are gone by executive order. We're going to run down the list of those programs that are going to affect you directly, not only in terms of where you work, but also what you buy and where you're going to be able to buy it. Now, of course, everything that I'm going to say on this episode of the Ujamaa Network is going to be direct, fact-checked immediately, because I'm going to take it right from the official webpage of the United States government's whitehouse.gov. This is the desk of President Trump. And as we're looking at this, the top issue, that's right, issue that we're going to be talking about is making America safe again. You heard it right. You read it right. M.A.S.A. Now, if you believe this was some sort of Freudian slip and they didn't mean to write what they wrote, then maybe you just not have been paying attention to the news cycle for the past 5 days. We're going to go down this list right now. What I encourage you all to do is read it for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. Read it for yourself. It's out there for everybody to see. And we're going to look particularly at the DEI initiatives that the president has invoked with executive order. Now, from the main page, I want you to scroll down to the section for executive orders, and you'll get greeted by a bunch of executive orders that were taken by the president on the first day. There were at least 6 pages of them, but I want you to scroll down and select number 2. We're going to get right into the DEI portion of this, the major one that affects hiring within the federal government. Now, of course, the premise of this executive order is based in the thought that those people who are in these positions did not get there on their own merit, that they were somehow appointed there because of their color or their ethnic background, what have you. So much so that the president had suggested that the majority ethnicity of this country who have been disenfranchised because of these quote unquote DEI hires should receive reparations. Yes, this was an actual statement that the president made. Now, it flies in the face that you are coming from an assumption that those individuals are not qualified. This is the main campaign slogan that was put against the president's opponent in this last election. So it doesn't surprise me here, but what does surprise me is what comes after it. Section 3 clearly states, terminate all diversity, equity, equitable decision-making, equitable deployment of financial and technical assistance, advancing equity, and like mandates, requirements, programs, or activities as appropriateness within the federal government. But it goes further in the saying, Section 4, it is encouraging private sector to end illegal DEI discrimination and preferences. The heads of all agencies, within the assistance of the Attorney General, shall take all appropriate action with respect to the operations of their agencies to advance in the private sector the policy of individual initiative, excellence, and hard work, and identified in Section 2 of this order. So it's not enough that he is mandating this within the federal government level, and those positions are being eliminated as we speak. But he's gone ahead and encouraged private sector businesses to do the same. And the end result has been that major retailers, Target being the first one, actually the biggest one, next to Walmart and Amazon, by the way, that are now rethinking their entire DEI hire packages. Target going so far as to say that the programs that they have initiated, including bringing things like Shea Moisture, which, by the way, is not a black owned company, it was a black founded company. And that was a skincare products that the Lever Corporation purchased a while back. So if you were operating on the assumption that that brand was actually black owned, it is not. And however, it was a black product, for black people, black skin tones, that kind of deal. Without these programs, those shelves are not going to be stocked with those products. That is going to have a direct impact on where and how we purchase these materials. In major retail stores, especially now, that's prime real estate. Without access to these shelves and these stores, these major networks of stores, where do you go to get these products if you want to buy them? Now, again, if your goal is to buy black and support black, Shea Moisture just isn't one of them anymore. Um, there are outlets that you can take, but as far as anything that's related to a DEI initiatives to include diversity, even the word diversity has been stricken from Target's official announcement as to what they are doing to drop these inclusionary actions. And it is quite telling where the tone of this debate is starting to move towards. You cannot expect a community that has already been historically disenfranchised to now pick up the pieces and figure out what do you do from here. And this is, again, part of why we exist. We should have never depended on any conglomerate that we don't own. You have to support your own communities. If you have a large black population, this is an opportunity for you to try to get that business out the mud. It's always been a problem when it comes to major retailers. You simply cannot compete against a major retailer. So you are pretty much locked in. When you do open up a store selling products like this, it usually comes with a tremendous amount of markup, usually more expensive than what your consumer base can afford, because you have to pay for these things on yourselves and you don't have a national chain to support you. This is going to have a direct effect on the pocketbooks of every African American that voted against Trump. And that's about 80% of black males, 90% of black women. And this is a direct result of that vote. Don't get it twisted. Of course, it never stops there. There was an edict or executive action taken against flags, of all things, particularly the pride flag and the Black Lives Matter flag. Now, those two are just petty, right? Honestly, I haven't given a thought to anybody who waves those flags, either one of them, but to specifically call them out and say that these flags are not going to be allowed to be flown at any of the embassies. And there's a current bill to kind of eliminate those flags from being flown at any federal office. Just kinds of flies in the face of the pardons you issued for individuals who carried the Confederate flag within the White House during January 6th and then gave them a pardon. Does that include that Confederate flag? A lot of people will say it should, but if it's a one flag policy, we have to make sure we get the right flags, right? Now, obviously, the only time that Black Lives Matter flag ever flies is when one of us are killed while we're unarmed. Usually, you don't see those flags with any other murders that happen within our communities, but that's a whole nother story. But when we're talking about unarmed black victims being shot and killed by law enforcement, that's when you see that flag. It is ironic that at the same time that this edict goes out, this executive order went out, the president's first act was to pardon a police officer who covered up information in DC. We're talking about that moped death. The police chased this man to his death and he was killed on this moped. And then they lied to their superiors and then they lied to the evidence handlers. And when they were convicted and sentenced back in September of 2024 to, maybe about 2 or 3 years, The president has already gone ahead and given him a full pardon. Now, this last month, the decision to release the JFK assassination files and the MLK assassination files from archives, declassify them, is beyond petty. Now, I say that because, number one, we've all heard the allegations of womenizing between both of those political figures, both King and President Kennedy. But at the same time, look who's doing it. I just cannot, for the life of me, understand why this would be a thing that you would want to have released day one, other than to tell the American people, hey, this is what I took down with me to Mar-a-Lago, and this is what I found out. This is what the government was hiding from you. That's the only thing I could think of. He maybe, and we don't have any proof that these were some of the documents that he took with him down to Mar-a-Lago, but I'm thinking it is. I'm thinking it is. And understanding that this is a very petty man, very petty man. And it would not surprise me one bit. Does that advance his administration, though? I don't think so. I don't think so. All it does is it makes our recollection of these political images during those turbulent times that even predate me. I wasn't born until 5 years after those assassinations. And, as a 55-year-old man, do I want to know that? My kids don't need to know that. So, I don't know. It just seems awfully small a task for such a great office. I'm not going to even turn the comments on because obviously there's a political slant to this one. And this just stinks to what is just the beginning of what's going to be happening in this administration. I want to wish you all the best. Again, I'm turning these comments off because I know there are some lurkers on this channel. We'll get back to the usual information and that I try to stay out of the mud. I like that zone. I like that lane I'm in, and I'm going to stay there. But again, this is about investing in my community. And that DEI stuff, it's the antithesis of what we're trying to do here. Talk to you later.